Ladies and gentlemen.
I want to know, can you find your mind?
Welcome to Love Your Brain.
Hello, beautiful people. My name is Eric.
Hey, everybody. My name's Dave, and this is Love Your Brain.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to tell people what it is tonight.
Listen and you'll find out.
Yeah.
If you haven't already listened to how many episodes now, Dave?
Is this 7?
I think it's 7.
I think it's 7.
Right.
If it's not, we're not looking at it in front of us. So those of you who don't really, if somebody just picked this up now, they'd wonder what we were doing. But, all right, hold on here. This is going to be 8.
This is 8.
This is episode 8.
All right. So welcome to any new listeners. I think it would be good to maybe say a couple things about what we're up to here in general terms.
Well, that's jumping in quick. I wasn't ready for that. I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Well, actually, not a question, but all right. So a priest, a minister, a rabbi, a horse, and a monkey all walk into a bar.
Yeah.
Bartender looks up and goes, "What is this, some kind of joke?" Okay. Well, we're both, before we came on tonight, we're both talking about how we're both really low energy for a variety of reasons. So I know if I can get Eric to do one cackle, we're good.
One cackle's a good sign. That is my laugh type. It's cackle. It's cackle laugh.
It's a little bit of cackle.
All right. I think it works. Good.
Yeah.
So
we are, so Love Your Brain. So here we are tonight. We're going to be doing the third part on our addiction series tonight. We spent a good portion of the first episode really talking about what addiction is, kind of, and how people get to the point of addiction.
right.
And then the second episode really was more, we discussed addiction itself and what happens.
What happens in the brain, what happens in human behavior that is addiction.
And we're trying to be mindful about all of the different ways that the mind can become addicted. You know, we talked strongly about drugs and alcohol because, you know, that's partially what we have in common. But also, you know, as you start to dig into addiction these days, you start to realize there are a variety of things that are designed to addict us.
Dopamine hits, foods,
you know, depending on, especially
sugar,
things that are
fat, salt.
processed. Yeah, and then of course we've got social media, cell phones, you know, sex addictions, gambling. You know, so we've kind of been trying to encompass all of that. And I think tonight we want to talk about what happens after addiction.
What happens after addiction? Well, what happens if someone isn't able to get out of addiction?
Right. So let's talk about which addiction we're talking about, right? If somebody can't get out of, let's say, alcohol addiction, and they don't get arrested, what are some of the ways that, what are some of the things that'll happen after that, you figure?
Well, I mean, I've seen it firsthand. Cirrhosis of the liver.
Which leads to transplant or death.
Transplant or
depending.
death. I have a family member who developed a form of wet brain,
Yeah.
and it looked like dementia for the last 30 years of their life.
Yep.
Yep.
There's the amount of illnesses related to alcohol consumption is in the hundreds. You know, and some of the, I think probably we should say, with things like alcohol, drugs, often one of the main things that happens is death. Comes out of addiction. If the addiction doesn't stop, it's often death. Unless the person is forcefully separated from the substance.
And sometimes they're separated because they go to jail.
Right. And so that's a life after addiction kind of thing. Although, now, we're talking life after physical addiction in that case. And we talked a lot about the two different types of addiction. There's physical addiction and there's psychological addiction. So it's very, very often somebody gets arrested, gets clean while goes cold turkey in a cell, gets out, and the first thing they want to do is get high. That's because the psychological addiction's never treated.
Right. As I like to say, it's not about the fruit, it's about the root. And that's one of my one-liners. Basically, I mean, you could probably figure it out for yourself, but it's, alcohol is never was really the issue. Let's just say the addiction is never really the issue. It really is more the solution to something else that's going on deep down within that person. And so that's why I refer to like the alcoholism, the alcohol, the drug use as the fruit of the tree. But really, if we want to get down to resolving this and potentially stepping into real recovery, it's about focusing on the roots of what causes that rotten fruit we don't like.
So I think one of the things we're trying to say is that death is one outcome after addiction.
Sure is. Yeah, and I've been to plenty of funerals.
But the other options are some form of recovery.
Yes.
Which is to say, you can separate, again, we can put somebody, we can clean them up, dry them out in a place, forcefully take their cell phone away, whatever it may be, you can forcefully separate somebody from the thing they're addicted to. But unless the psychological part doesn't get treated, then they're going to likely go back to it or something else and do whatever it is to a point that damages their lives.
Unless there's a real overhauling of the causes and conditions that brought them to the place of why they continue to be addicted, there's really, I don't believe, a strong solution.
There's if you're, listening in your car and doing about 80 miles an hour, take your phone out and, just kidding. Do not take your phone out. There's a curve you can look up. There's a guy named Jellinek back in the 50s that came up with this curve that described alcoholism and addiction. Well, at the time he was strictly doing it over with alcoholism, but he included parts of recovery. And Jellinek is spelled with a J, and you just type in Jellinek's Curve, and you'd see this kind of U-shaped thing. And at the bottom of the U, you see kind of a spinning. So it's like if you would imagine a U right down at the bottom of the U, you got a little curly Q, goes around once or twice in a loop, then it goes back up the other side of the U. And that's the area where somebody with, in that case, with alcoholism, but often with addiction of any other sort, gets to a point where the item of addiction is causing so many problems, but is also their solution for the stress of all the problems that are happening, that they get into a loop of, because they can no longer control what they're doing, but it's ruining their lives, and they go back to it for comfort, and it's ruining their lives, and they can no longer do it, and it's going back and forward and
It's
back
like the
and forth.
snake eating its tail.
And ultimately, that's often the place where death can occur, because the person can no longer control what they're doing. Now, the other thing that happens at that point is people often hit a point, you probably heard it in movies and TV, they call it a bottom.
The Rock.
Yeah. How would you describe bottom?
Oh man, I got a couple different descriptions for it.
Yeah, I mean, there is no real one description.
Well, I have one that's more based in kind of wisdom and spiritual perspective, and then I will speak about what rock bottom was for me personally when I hit it. And I'll start with my personal experience. Rock bottom for me was literally the most desperate, hopeless state of my mind, of my body, of my spirit that I've ever been in my entire life. I wanted to die. At the same time, when I hit rock bottom, I also knew that there was a real problem. It was hard to evade and avoid and even distract myself from the fact that there was something seriously not working out for me in my life. And so rock bottom for me was the most desperate and hopeless I've ever been in my entire life, and I'm grateful for that. The other version of the other thing I want to say about rock bottom that was given to me, and I'm just going to use my own words, is that rock bottom is when a person decides to put down the shovel and stop digging, because there's this very deadly stigma attached to what a rock bottom is, especially for someone who's in active addiction, whether it's alcoholism or drug addiction, where it's like, well, it hasn't gotten bad enough, right? Well, I still have a job. Well, I still have these things. And, if they're waiting for the rock bottom, unfortunately, that rock bottom might be 6 feet under.
Yeah, I think a lot of people identify some sort of material activity, loss of job, loss of home, loss of license.
There's got to be like this really, really bad thing that happens for them to finally say, okay, I'm throwing in the towel. And, if there's anyone out there that is, struggling with addiction, I'm telling you right now, it's a choice. Like, this could be your rock bottom. Like, however it is for you right now, however bad, however still good aspects of your life are, you can choose this period of your life to actually be your rock bottom and really start getting serious about change.
Yeah, I have dealt with a few addictions in my life, from cigarettes, to other mind-altering substances, to alcohol, to social media, to food, but the biggest rock bottom that I hit, because, I quit smoking, back in 1992, but I kept doing other things, so.
Yep.
So I have to mark, but the one that really stands out to me was with alcohol. And it was when I suddenly was willing to pay any price, no matter what, to no longer be the person that I had been.
Oof. Ah, man, I hear that.
And it was, for me, there was this, the guy the night before would do whatever he wanted and didn't give a shit because the next morning, doesn't matter, might not even come. That's how I feel.
Right.
And then wake up the next morning and go, oh, man, what did he do now?
Yeah.
And it was really a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde experience, which if nobody's ever read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it's got some Victorian language, but you can get it on archive.org. You can get it in the public domain. You can even get the audiobook. And you don't have to listen to the whole book, but at least the last chapter, the statement of the case, I believe it's called, Robert Louis Stevenson does the most amazing job of describing that. Where Dr. Jekyll would dread the fact that he could not stop Mr. Hyde from appearing. And this is, the book is nothing like the movies that you might have seen,
Right.
but
Usually,
I highly recommend anybody to go check it out.
yeah.
Download it off archive.org. You can get the audio book. Of course, you can get a copy of it anywhere. It's well printed. And for me, it was that willing to pay any price to no longer be the person that I was. It hadn't been that way 5 minutes before it happened, though. For me, it was an actual
Quick.
point. I I threw something across the room and it broke, and I stared at it. And in that 10 seconds that I was staring at it, it all happened, you know.
Wow, I didn't
just
know that.
crumbled.
Okay.
I crumbled,
didn't
and I
know
picked up
that.
the phone, and I called a friend of mine who never answered his phone at night. And he answered, you know. But yeah, it happened at once, and but it didn't happen at once. Like, there's more after that,
Well,
because I
yeah.
didn't have any sort of way.
You had a real turning point. There was a critical
There was a
point that
bottom.
happened that put you
Yeah.
from one place into another. You crossed whatever that threshold was, and you were in
Here's
this
the
moment
problem,
of
though.
wanting to get well.
You're an addict, and you're using that stuff to give you ease and comfort. And somebody, all of a sudden, you realize you can no longer do it anymore. Now, I called this guy, and he was going out of town, but he said we'd get together on Monday when he got back. This was a Thursday. And so I just kept going all weekend because I didn't know how else to try and shut the screaming off inside. And so to shut the screaming down, I had to continue to do the only thing that I knew to do until I could get there.
It's crazy. It is so crazy that it for the addict, it's the solution, and it's also the biggest, one of the biggest aspects of what's causing all the problems.
Sure.
Unbelievable.
And for me, it wasn't that I didn't want to stop drinking. I didn't want to change. I didn't want to do anything. I just didn't want to suffer. Right? If I could have kept doing everything I was doing and not have to suffer the consequences,
Right.
I would have been great. If I could have kept that 3-beer glow, I would have been something.
Do you think it was because you got more realistic in your view of the consumption or the actual addiction? Like, it almost sounds like you had like a moment of clarity where you saw things in a way that was more.
I was suddenly, I could visually see an invisible thread from all of the problems that I was aware of in my life at that moment, which were many, directly leading back to the drinking. I could just see how it was connected to all of them in a split second. And I was like, when it happened, of course, on the other side of that, I had known it was there all along, right? That's the funny thing about it. The psychological defenses are so powerful that they can make something so obvious, so hard for you to see, and then suddenly when you see it, you can't understand how you missed it.
Especially if you're intelligent, because if you're intelligent, that means you're clever. And if you're clever, those defense mechanisms.
I don't have that problem.
Those defense mechanisms like rationalization and justification and denial and all that stuff, I mean, it can just like concoct some of the most unreal bullshit that sounds awesome.
And here's
Sounds
the thing
great.
for anybody who's listening to that is mostly subconsciously happening. This is not like going, it's not the I need to make up an excuse
No.
why I smell like booze thing. It's
Right,
not
right.
that.
Yeah,
We're
no.
talking
It's not premeditated. It happens in the moment.
It develops over time too, because, well, Christ, I should be able to drink a beer after, mowing the lawn.
I'll pay my bills.
Well, no, I'm saying
Go
like
to
I should be
work.
able to have a beer at dinner, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, it's spicy, I'll have 2. And really, there's no difference between 2 and 3, so I'm just going to have a third. And, well, you know what? Never mind.
Next thing
I'll
you know,
stop tomorrow.
For me, it was next thing you know, you wake up and spend 2 days and other drugs were involved and dude, where's my car?
I always found it to be worse when I couldn't find my shoes.
Yeah, worse when you can't find, where's my car is like, all right, someone brought me home, someone called me a cab.
You don't need to have a car to lose your shoes.
Oh, the stories.
You want to know why hippies are really barefoot?
That's good.
So, but here's the thing. So I got to a point all of a sudden where I knew within a short period of time that there was no turning back. Like, I realized at some point my drinker was broken.
Your drinker was broken?
My drinker was broken. There had been a period of time when I could drink and enjoy it. I could stop in the middle of a drink and leave, whatever. But as time went on, that stopped being the case. Even to the point where I would swear I wasn't gonna, I wasn't gonna use, I wasn't gonna drink, and I would find a reason, of course. And whoa, I just lost that train.
It's okay. I'm on it.
Well, can you tell me where I was?
Yeah, you're talking about.
I got it.
See, I didn't even look at that.
Yeah,
Boy, that was easy.
I needed something at that point. I needed something. Drugs, booze, overeating, social media, it does something for me that nothing else that I'm doing right now can do for me. It plugs, like some people will say, it plugs a hole in your soul. But one thing is for sure, it was doing something for me. It stopped working. My life was a mess, and I'm looking down a black hole, and I can't get out of it myself, because tomorrow I'm going to wake up, and I'm going to be presented with the same damn choices. And I'm going to be presented them with the day after that. And I only know one thing to do to get rid of this, anxiety. I only know one thing to do to.
Yeah, you've had a solution that worked until it didn't work. It might have not even worked well, but it worked until it didn't work. And that's definitely my story too.
And so what I needed to do, well, in my case, I needed to get help from outside of myself.
Right, because just like how alcohol or any drug is like the snake eating its tail, where it's your solution, but it's also the problem maker. I've always found it quite interesting, funny, and insane that people believe that they're going to solve their problems with the same thing that causes their problems, especially someone who's new to recovery.
Right. Now, there are a number of different types of recovery, and we'll try and touch on a bunch. One, it's quite obvious, and most people, I would assume, are listening, know that there are 12-step programs out there. There's Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous,
Cocaine, Heroin Anonymous,
Sex Addicts Anonymous.
Yep.
So there are a number.
Codependent Anonymous.
Right, CODA, yeah. So there are a lot of them. Okay, and of course that'll be part of what we talk in. But I want to also assure somebody who's getting ready to hit the stop button is that we're going to discuss other methods that are outside of the 12-step world, because we know that's not for everybody.
That's right. It is not the only way. There are many paths to the top of the mountain, my friends. And that path for a lot of people, the 12-step path, is a great path.
And here's something too. Sometimes folks in 12-step land kind of get a bad rap because some of them are a little overzealous.
I never was, dude.
And but here's the thing that should foster a little humility, because we all should have some.
Yeah.
And remember to remain teachable and growable, and that open to new ideas is something I always believe. And that is that of the people who recover from alcohol in the United States, from the data that's been collected, roughly about 50% of the people who recover do so outside of 12-step programs.
There you go.
Right, exactly. Now, obviously, a very large portion of that is in the 12-step programs, but we're talking entirety, it's only about half. And all of those other things are methods that work for other people. And so open-mindedness is big in the 12-step world, to have an open mind. And
honesty.
They too should also remember that it's good to have an open mind, that we don't all think the same.
Right.
We don't all engage the same. Our brains don't all work the same. And through the course of our addiction and alcoholism, we have been slowly changing our brain. We've been rewiring it, literally.
Right. Oh, it's reminded me of what came up in one of the previous episodes about state-dependent learning.
Right.
Like we literally learn new things while we were in our addiction. And so when some people break the addiction, they have to relearn a lot of things because of that dependent state that they were in for that learning to occur.
Dude, when I smoked, the first thing I would do when I got in the car, stuck the keys in the ignition, started it up, I'd light a cigarette. Turn on the radio, put it in gear, head out. Yeah. And I stopped smoking. And I got in the car. I didn't know what the hell to do. Yeah, I was like, I felt like I was doing something. I was missing a step, you know?
That's funny.
And it was a long time before I got rid of that.
Yeah, it's not easy to break habits and form new ones.
No, and so this is why I said I needed help outside of me. And ultimately, almost all forms of recovery requires some interaction with another person, even just initially, just to learn it.
Right. Well, if you're going to get help outside of yourself.
No, I'm saying even for folks who don't want help outside of themselves.
Yep.
At some point, you've got to learn it from somebody. Even if it's somebody who wrote a book, starting there, we have to interact with other human beings to learn new information on this.
Yeah.
And if somebody finds themselves in a situation, they don't know what to do, the only thing that's ever been offered up to them is a 12-step meeting, and that's not what they want to do.
And they have stories that they've heard from people, and they have their own preconceived notions.
Or they walk into a 12-step meeting, and it's not a great one. Because
Right.
some of them aren't perfect.
No, that's right. Yeah, and unfortunately, that first impression is the most impactful impression. When you meet someone, when you go to an AA meeting, when you try out a new restaurant, you get a shitty meal, you're probably not going to go back. So yeah, that's a real phenomena.
Yeah. That's, because, I mean, in the end, going back to the 50% thing, is our goal here is that it's not about the method, right? I mean, we want people to be able to get better, have a better life, it's going to improve the lives of those that they're in contact with, whether it be family or coworkers or friends, whatever. They're going to become a more congenial person, somebody you want to be around because they're not throwing up in your car seat anymore or something, you know.
You don't have to bail them out of jail. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're leaving burnt tinfoil in your back seat. I had that one happen to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gotta love it. So yeah, that's one of those things that I kind of wanted to, you know, and really, when we're talking about recovery, we're talking about the psychological portion of recovery, because the physical part is often taken care of earlier, right? I mean, if you're drinking, you have to, and you need to be medically detoxed. You have to go to a medical detox because you could, as we had mentioned in the last episode on this, you could go into grand mal seizure. You can actually
Alcohol and benzodiazepines are the most deadly things to come off of. Yes.
And so the person will take care of the physical part first, but then there's the what's going to stop him from having another beer.
Right.
Right? He realizes that something has changed in his body. He can't go back to drinking because every time he has a sip, he immediately wants more. So now what does he do? You know? And all of a sudden there's, what do I do? Some people are able to just change what they drink and they move along fine, but there's a lot of people who can't. And all of a sudden they realize when they're sober, or when they're clean, when they're sober, or when they're no longer in their addicted state, not doing what it is they're doing, they don't know what to do with themselves. They can't think straight.
Right.
Anger, rage, depression, all of these things start to bubble up. And so recovery is often about treating the psychological.
I got a question for you. So we're talking about, you know, the 50% here, that people that recover do it outside of 12-step land. What do you think are the common traits that you see in those 50% and also maybe in 12-step land? Do you think there's like a common denominator? I think there is, but I want to know what your thoughts are. What's the common denominator? That even though they're not going to the meetings and stuff, they're experiencing something that is either similar or very parallel to what you would receive from, the 12-step land.
I would probably say the leading, I would probably say is the spiritual part of 12-step stuff.
Yep.
Or as other people would see it, the religious part.
Yep.
They would look at it as religion. And there is also a misunderstanding that these folks tell you how to live your life. And not for nothing, I'm sure there's plenty of people in meetings who do try to tell you how to live your life. Usually what that means to me is they don't understand all concepts within Alcoholics Anonymous, especially the live and let live part, and the fact that, everybody is a little bit different. But
maybe you misinterpreted my question.
I just like to talk.
No, what I'm saying is, so successes in 12-step land and successes outside, what do they share in common? The successes, the people that are able to have real solid recovery.
The quality of that bottom would be my answer in terms of unless somebody is convinced that they can no longer go back to doing the item, substance, whatever activity that their addiction is, they're going to look for another way out. They're going to look for something else to use, a different way to use it. Maybe drink less, maybe only get high on weekends.
Management. Yeah, I mean,
I would say the quality of the bottom.
Got it. No.
How much of it gets internalized. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't want to, it's no such thing as a incorrect bottom. It's just how much of it gets connected to the fact that they know they can't go backwards.
I agree. Well, I'm going to say that I've seen a lot of success in 12-step land. I am one of those, and I'm okay with sharing that. And I've witnessed people get sober, live happy, joyous, and free lives outside of 12-step land. The one thing that I've seen that is connected on both sides is that these people find community, they find connection through other human beings, they find a way to step into some form of a spiritual lifestyle that works for them. I've seen a lot of people get involved in religion. I've seen a lot of people get involved in being a part of men's groups or even just like creating a new life where they hang out with people that have shared interests. But there's always, the way it occurs to me, there's always community. There's always connection with other human beings. And that, I think, is something that I just want to throw that out there to the listeners is, you hear the age old cliche, you can't do it alone, man. Like, it's true. You really can't. And, they talk about that in 12-step land, but I've seen that same lesson be played out with the people that don't go to 12-step land and get real recovery.
Yeah. I know quite a few people who are recovered, who are atheistic, dipped into AA or NA, dipped very quickly back out, and proceeded to do things such as, some of the things we want to, there are other organizations out there, such as Smart Recovery, is rational recovery still a thing?
I
don't think
haven't
it
heard
is.
of it in a long time. I remember it was a few years back.
So some might do something like that, which really is kind of a self-guided group therapy kind of
A lot
situation.
of CBT and DBT
There's
stuff, right?
Yeah, so alphabet soup, step up to the microphone. CBT is
Cognitive behavioral therapy, and
Yep.
DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy. What did I say? CBT?
CBD. CBT.
Oh, here we go. I'm in the soup, man. I'm getting confused by the letters.
Well, I'm telling everybody to use CBD now. You can find it at your local gas station. It'll be up on the counter
Helps you
next
sleep, great for pain. No, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah, it helps with. It's guided help, typically from a mentor, counselor, therapist, to help redirect your thinking. Like you talk a lot about like right thinking, right behavior, all that Buddhist type of stuff. But that's really what CBT is.
And I've found that in depth exploration of things like CBT and the 12 steps is that if you remove the part where a supreme being or some sort of greater, higher power or what
Yeah.
have you, if you remove that part from Alcoholics Anonymous and look at the steps themselves,
Yeah, it's CBT.
it's CBT.
Yeah, it is, and it's DBT too, which dialectical behavioral therapy is more about self-talk and the internal dialogue that takes place for how you occur to yourself. Right? Would you say that's an accurate statement?
It's CBT directed more towards the self-talk, and I mean, it's still the
DBT
same.
DBT is
Yeah,
more.
DBT, but it's really kind of a subcategory of CBT. I mean,
Yeah.
you're still working with the same kind of principles.
Yeah.
But you're targeting specifically, because this is also something that is used in, for example, self-harm addictions or self-harm behavior.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can call it addiction or not. But the recovery, but it still has a recovery period.
It probably looks and acts very much like addiction.
There's
I would
very much
say.
a recovery from it, and they'll use DBT for
I know
that.
some cutters, man. I know people that
Sure,
have
yeah.
cut, and it is. I will tell you that my opinion is it is like a drug.
Well, I put it on my list for that reason, because I would say it's very much the same. It is an addictive behavior, and it certainly can be recovered from,
Yep. Yep. I know 3 people that have recovered from that.
And DBT actually is also used a lot in treatment for social media addiction.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Where do I sign up?
So I wanted to kind of throw those in there too. Now, there's a lot of psychological approaches, therapies, which would include mindfulness therapy is very big now. And mindfulness therapy is kind of like Buddhism light.
Buddhism light or light Buddhism.
No, I mean
light.
Buddhism light, like Budweiser light.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
It's like even less of a non-beer than Budweiser.
Nice.
I don't drink anymore,
That's
and
funny.
I still don't like it.
Yeah, mindful. I don't know why I don't like that term, but it works, and it works for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a difficult thing, but in the end, it's a lot of the same principles, even in CBT, which is that when you're in a situation, we start to learn how to become aware of our own thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully to the point where we're aware of it enough before there's some outward action of our thinking, whether
So-
that be an actual act or a word or whatever, behavior.
Yeah.
It's literally about learning. Well, we talked about this last time on with meditation, is that meditation really is to learn or to familiarize yourself with the mind. That's the Tibetan word for meditation basically means to familiarize yourself.
It really reminds me of something that I like to share with people because I like simple ways of viewing complicated things. And so I was taught, I think I got this actually from Al-Anon, but it's the 3 A's to change. The first A being awareness, that the first step to really creating change in your life is you got to be aware that there's something that needs to be changed. There's got to be an awareness of the issue. Now, I think a lot of people get stuck in awareness. I was for many years. I was fully aware that I was a raging alcoholic, but it didn't mean that I stopped drinking.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's where it is funny because I'll talk to people sometimes, and when we're talking about, their reluctance or even sometimes their ambivalence toward change, they'll say things, well, I know. And it's like, yeah, but that's only a part of it, dude. And so that's where that second A to change comes in, which is acceptance. That to really be able to step into real change, you have to accept that there's a problem. You have to accept the current state of affairs. And then the last as they are, without attaching too much meaning. I like to refer to that as the what so. You've heard me say that before. But so after you get past awareness, you accept, then you can really take action. And that's putting feet on the ground and doing things to actually make real change. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, not all recovery for everybody is such an undertaking. There are people who stop drinking and are able to, or to stop using and are able to return to their lives, not change any of their behavior, and remain the same person they were. Now, that may be a good thing, that may be a bad thing, depending on the person. But, I guess my point is that I don't want somebody listening to this to think that that they have to change so much, or they'll have to do so much work, or they'll have to go to all kinds of shrinks and stuff, so much so that they will not be willing to stop or even examine that. And I say that because the person that I called at that moment when they threw that thing, what it was I threw a phone into a fireplace.
I actually remember this. Okay. Yeah, now I remember.
And I called my friend Doc, who
everybody
is
needs
no
a
longer
doc,
here.
dude.
No longer here, but he was, I was always proud of the fact that he kind of looked like Walt Whitman, So it was kind of like when Back to the Future came out and I saw that doc and I already had my doc. I was like, yeah, this works, Anyway,
One of my favorite movies of
I
all
called Doc because I had known people who had stopped. And they had all changed, and really magnificently, too. A lot of these people had really become even better than they were, and they were already friends. Doc, on the other hand, stayed the same miserable son of a bitch I had always known. That's why I called him. Because I was afraid. I didn't want to change like they did.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, what did I want to, did I want to end up, recovering and become so mindful of everything? I'm going to start a podcast and tell people about it? I mean, I didn't want to do that, man. No, but I didn't. And that's why I reached out to him. So I don't want to give somebody the impression that there isn't some way for you to recover.
Right. Or that you have to lose the essence of who you are. I would actually argue that you gain more essence of the true self.
I find that it was a matter of, and these are not my words, uncovering, discovering, and discarding. And what was left was me.
Boom.
I was really just jettisoning the crap.
Boom.
You're right. I become a clearer me.
And that's the thing is I would say to that person that might be, having these thoughts that you just addressed is you might actually become the person that you've always wanted to be. You might actually be able to get all the shit out of the way, take off that backpack filled with stuff from your past and your present that's weighing you down, that's making it difficult to hike on the path that you're on, that, real recovery is just being able to put the backpack down. And yeah, maybe looking inside and seeing what it is weighing you down, but like, let's just keep it simple.
Yeah, what if we just offered you the opportunity to bend over and tie your shoes without wanting to throw up? Right? I mean, just the fact that you don't wake up every day feeling like a complete and total crap is kind of a nice thing in the first place, or that you aren't worried about them finding that you just drained the bank account, or that mom finds out you just sold her computer.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things. What if, for some people, that might just be enough to get their foot in the door to try recovery. And then as they get in there and they start being faced with things like, geez, I didn't realize how easily I got angry so quickly, and they start working on that. Maybe they go see a counselor, maybe they go to the gym. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be different for everybody. But at some point, it does become about change. It becomes about changing because we have rewired our brains slowly over time with addiction. And the person who is the one who walks through that door will ultimately have to change because they've been dependent on something to keep themselves together.
I think this is a great place to also speak on those people who are dealing with the person who's addicted. The loved ones. I'd like to say a few words on the loved ones, unless you have other things you want to get to, or are we doing a fourth?
No, we're good. We can go ahead, please,
we
'cause
doing a
I have
fourth
loved
episode?
ones, and I think it's a great topic to go to.
All right, yeah. So, I think it's important to talk about moms, dads, girlfriends, brothers, sisters, whoever you are that's dealing with someone who is either struggling with an active addiction right now or is even in early recovery. There's almost like an addiction for those people where they fill a certain role, and it can be very challenging for them, just as much, if not even harder for the loved one. And there's also, some places to go for help with that, like Al-Anon. Do you have any other ones to say?
No, I would say, Al-Anon, certainly for a family of drug and alcohol users. But yeah, there are a lot of family groups these days. And you're right, because it's the amount of people that I know who've gone through recovery, it's very few and far between where you don't hear somebody who, after about a month of not drinking or whatever, starts having all kinds of problems at home. Yeah. And they're fighting left and right because as you're changing, they're changing along with you. They're adapting to your behavior. If you don't think that people don't adapt to each other's behavior, move your wife's toothbrush, see what happens.
Something simple like that.
Yeah,
and then something drastic like addiction, and then now becoming, stepping into recovery. Like, people don't know how to act with each other. They don't know what role they serve. A classic is the wife or the girlfriend. I've seen it many times where the husband or the boyfriend gets clean and sober, and there's disruption in that relationship because they just don't even know how to be. They don't know how to be. For many periods of time, that girlfriend or wife was taking care of this person who needed to be taken care of, and cleaning up their messes and picking them up at parties. And
I'm sitting here nodding because everybody at home can hear my nod.
But yeah, so yeah, I think this is definitely an important topic.
Yeah, because the addiction is damaging to human beings, period. Whatever the addiction is, it ultimately means that somehow we've attached ourselves to something outside of ourselves in order to make ourselves feel complete. Mm-hmm. And to do that, we have to change our behaviors. We rewire our own brain. The people in and around us also start to come along for that ride. And then, especially if somebody leaves, it goes to recover and goes to something like a 12-step group, and somebody who might not have previously had any sort of spiritual life and enjoys that part of it, and all of a sudden they're meditating and praying, and their husband walks in and be like, what the heck are you doing here,
Right.
So things will all of a sudden be different. And so, yeah, it really, and it causes a great deal of resentment on the side of the person who's been taking care of them. And like you said, cleaning up their messages, bailing them out, cleaning up their messes, bailing them out. And then all of a sudden, this person's able to finally stop and with, the help of some plumber in a basement.
Yeah.
Right? And all
Right.
of their efforts didn't, and that is so
Yeah.
frustrating for
Yeah,
people.
that's definitely a recipe for resentment if it's not dealt with and it's not addressed, and that person doesn't also go get help. I think it's very, very important for anyone that's been in a long-term relationship, and that even means if you're a mom with a kid, there's recovery for you. Recoveries for everyone. We talked about it in one of our.
I want to say something real quick about the family part, which is that, and sometimes it's about the family members taking care of themselves if the person with the addiction is unable to stop.
Yeah.
And so things like Al-Anon and other groups like that can help people with that. And sometimes you start to realize exactly how sick your behaviors are toward the person you're trying to support.
That's right.
And sometimes people have to break connection with them some way. There's divorces that come out of this. I personally know this because I had to write a letter to a loved one who I finally had gotten to the point that I could not help them, even though that's what I was doing for a living. And I couldn't help them. And, but of course, there's a rule around that. You're not really supposed to be able to help people in your family because you're too emotionally close to them and you're going to cut corners.
That's right.
And I actually had to write one of those letters and cut somebody loose. Now, they've still got the letter and they've since stopped drinking, but it wasn't the point that triggered their recovery. That letter went out 2 years before they quit.
Wow.
So there was a while I didn't really talk to them much at all.
I think I know what you're talking about. I know this. I know what you're
Yeah.
referring to. Yeah. I would love to bring up the 5 stages of change that, remember, I was going to.
You've been threatening that?
I know.
It's right up there
we're
with
at
heart
the
space.
end of this. We're at the end of this episode, and it actually worked out. Where here we are with the 5 stages of change, which I would say this is something to listen to, pay attention to for people that are either wanting change in their lives, but maybe even more so for people that are witnessing someone who is struggling with addiction. There are 5 stages of change, and they go as follows. 1, pre-contemplation. So people in pre-contemplation a lot of the time aren't even really aware that there's a problem, or they're just kind of burying their head in the sand.
Thus the pre,
The pre,
because
right.
they're not even contemplating yet.
Right. So we have pre-contemplation. Then we have contemplation, where these
Aware.
these individuals they're starting to realize, okay, there might be something going on. There might be something wrong. They might be looking towards.
But it's in their scope somewhere.
It's in their scope.
They no longer can avoid it. It's there.
It's in their scope. And then
Go-
the third. Go ahead.
Well, I want to say something.
Yeah.
These stages of change are not just about recovery.
No, they are just about
I
change.
just want to say that.
They are just about change.
Avail yourself to the internet. Look it up.
Yeah, no,
Very
and I'm
informative.
not making. Yeah, this is
Yep.
stuff that I was trained and developed in for a few years. But so then the third stage to change is preparation. So this is someone who is now not in that contemplative aspect, and they're more into, okay, there's a real problem here. They're planning. I'm going to start going to counseling. I want to check out these meetings. I want to go here. That's preparation. And then, the stage that was brought up in my little rendition of the 3 A's to change, is action. And that is when someone is
Actually doing something.
proactively putting their feet on the ground and doing something in the form of action about, their life and creating change.
Even just that counseling that they were preparing.
That's right.
Now they're going to.
Now they're actually going to it. And then the fifth stage of change is maintenance. This is where people have developed this new way of being, and they're now forming new positive habits and really practicing a new way of living. So the reason why I want to bring up the 5 stages of change is because for a lot of loved ones, they want to treat their loved one in a stage that they aren't in. So the most easy example is, let's just say parents. The parents, their son or daughter is struggling with what looks like alcoholism, and they want to treat them like they're in action. When in all reality, that person is actually pre-contemplative. So the message that I'm just...
And all you're going to get there is, get out of my face.
It's going to cause, if you're treating someone who is pre-contemplative or contemplative in preparation or action, you're just going to cause a disconnect, and it's probably going to make matters worse. Yet, and it goes to what you were talking about, where you had to write that letter. It's like, it's hard to deal with the loved one because you just want to like grab them, shake them, fix them, make them better. And what I'm saying is that if you know that someone's in pre-contemplation or contemplation, treat them in the stage that they're in. And what do? So for pre-contemplation and contemplation, you provide information, you provide connection, you ask really good questions. There's no pushing, prodding, attacking. And this herein lies one of the hardest things about addiction and recovery, which is that we, loved ones, really can't make anyone change.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It sucks, and it is reality. And I think it's important that we're like ending this episode on this topic, because I think a lot of people struggle and suffer with lack of accepting this.
And this would go and extend to people who are, let's use AA, for example, AA members who get into relationships with other alcoholics, whether they met them at a meeting or not, and they're, even if they're both sober, and they start having problems at home, whatever, fights, things like that, and then they're trying to figure out what to do. And it's funny because they are now a family member or a loved one of an alcoholic. Even though they're in recovery, they should really still avail themselves to something like that. Where they too, because it's different to be working on yourself with the 12 steps for your alcoholism than it is to be working on yourself in the ways that you behave, interact, trigger, and dance with the person that you care about, who's in addiction, who's in pain, who's suffering, who's causing whatever harm.
Right.
So, you're absolutely right. And I think it's great that we ended on this too, because those 5 stages of change are just as true for you in recovery as it is for the
That's right.
for the family member. But family members, even if they're sober, remember that there's things that are actually designed to help you with that.
That's right.
You don't have to be alone. You don't necessarily have to go to a 12-step group. You can even just start by reaching out to one person. And if you have to, you can do it anonymously online. There's a number of online places you can. But, once you get to that point, which in my case was, I was willing to pay any price, no matter what, to no longer be the person that I had been, then the next step for me in that case was well, I guess it was preparation, but it was very brief, because I had to do something, because I had to drink every day.
Yeah, you went straight into preparation. Yeah.
I had no,
You did, and this
I had
does
set
occur.
a plan, and then I went back to my hole and drank. Yeah.
and I'm going to say this, and it may sound counterintuitive, but honestly, like, hopelessness and desperation is a good thing when it comes to that being what precedes as the catalyst for real change. Like, I was so desperate and hopeless that I was willing to do anything. So it's interesting that it was the most pain I ever was in, yet at the same time, that pain was literally what I needed to bring about real recovery.
And I want to wrap my part of this up by saying, we started this podcast. One of the first things we started talking about was that tiny little kernel of Dave, that as I'm born and as I have interactions with people and I learn things, it's a layer over it, and it's like a pearl or an onion, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you get the guy that's sitting across from you right now. And when you're in addiction or when you're dealing with somebody else in addiction, you're literally trying to go in the other direction, and sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. And so, like Eric was saying, that desperation, that fear, that's outside of that shell, but there are so much resources out there that I guess I want to just make sure I'm clear to say is that hopelessness, I absolutely understand hopelessness, but there's still going to be people out there that are willing to help you. So
That's right.
if you can just pick up the phone or something like that, somehow make that first contact, often that's usually what will set the ball rolling.
Yeah. My final words are that I want to bring this up one more time, and I'll be quick with it. I think I brought it up in one of the past episodes, is that I adhere to this concept that the opposite of addiction is connection. And connect with yourself, connect with others. Those are my final words.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you very much. We ran a little bit over, but we thought we wanted to button this up. Heaven forbid we go into episode 4. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you all next time on Love Your Brain.
Thanks for listening, and until next time. Wrong setting.
That's better. Thanks for listening, and until next time, don't forget to love your brain.